My aunt offered to manage my college fund after my mom passed. But when it was time to enroll, she told me it was gone. She said, "Life isn't fair," and neither was her will. I took a job cleaning offices and found her investment portfolio tied to my social security number. When I forwarded it to her financial advisor, when my mom passed away, I was 16. She'd been sick for a long time, breast cancer, stage 4 by the time they caught it. We were from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Nothing fancy. Just the two of us. She was a paralegal and a saver. Not rich, but smart with money. Every birthday, every holiday, even random Saturdays when I didn't expect it, she'd put a little into a college account she'd set up for me. She used to say, "This is so you can get the hell out of here one day and never look back." After she died, my Aunt Rachel, her older sister, stepped in like she was going to be some kind of hero. She wore black for months, acted like a second mom. She told everyone how she was handling my mom's estate, how she'd make sure my future was protected. People nodded, said how generous she was to take on the responsibility. I was still a minor, and apparently my mom never updated her will after she got sick. So Rachel petitioned for guardianship and control over my trust. She told me over and over, "Don't worry, honey. I'm making sure everything's safe." When I turned 18 and got accepted into the University of Oklahoma, I was ready to start. I wasn't looking to live large, just tuition, books, dorm, the basics. But when I sat down with Rachel to go over the fund, she looked me dead in the face and said, "It's gone." I didn't understand. I asked where it went. She just shrugged and said, "Life isn't fair," and neither was her will. Then she laughed. Like it was some big joke I didn't get. Asked if she had paperwork, she waved me off. Said the market had been rough, and I shouldn't dwell on things that were already done. It was like a switch had flipped in her. No more pretending. She was done with the act. So I didn't go to college. I got a job cleaning offices at night. Didn't tell anyone. Just worked. It was humiliating, but I needed to eat. I stayed with a friend, slept on a couch, and I kept to myself. One night, I was cleaning a law firm downtown. It was late. I was emptying trash in a private office when I saw a folder open on a desk. Something caught my eye, my name. My full name. I leaned in. It was a portfolio summary, tied to my social security number. There it was. The college fund. Still intact. Grown even. Only now it was bundled into an education investment trust, managed by Aunt Rachel under her name. But the kicker? She was using my SSN as the originating contributor, making it look like I had authorized it all. I didn't say anything. I took pictures of every page, emailed them to myself. Then I found the name of the financial advisor listed on the last page. I looked him up, he worked in the same building. I went back the next night. Same routine. Empty trash. Wiped desks. And then I slid the documents into an envelope and forwarded them, anonymously, to that advisor's office. The week after I sent the documents to the advisor, I kept waiting for something to happen. I figured maybe he'd ignore it, or worse. Maybe he'd tip her off. I didn't know what kind of relationship they had. For all I knew, he helped her pull this off. But 3 days later, I came into work, and the office was buzzing. People were talking low and fast, like they didn't want to be overheard. I heard the name Rachel more than once, and I knew right then he'd seen it. And he hadn't ignored it. That night, when the office was empty, I checked the advisor's office. Nothing obvious had changed, but a folder with Rachel's name was sitting on his desk. Fresh documents on top. It had a post-it note with the word urgent underlined twice. I kept my head down, kept cleaning, kept waiting. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. Then a voicemail came through. It was the financial advisor. He said, "Hi, this is Matthew Burke. I believe you sent me some documents recently. I want to assure you we're reviewing everything thoroughly. Please contact me directly. I believe you've uncovered something serious." My heart was racing. I'd never spoken to anyone about what happened. Never told a soul. I called him the next morning from a payphone by the gas station near my friend's place. He picked up right away. said he couldn't go into details on the phone, but asked if I could meet him in person. I agreed. We met at a Starbucks in Midtown. I wore my janitor uniform. I wanted him to see exactly where I ended up. He was professional, but you could tell he was pissed.
Not at me.
At her. He told me what he'd found. Turns out Rachel had been rolling over the account every year into various investment vehicles, using my name and SSN to maintain legal coverage. But the beneficiary had changed me to her. All done through updated instructions that he'd thought were legit. Signed documents. Notarized. He looked at me and said, "If this is fraud, and it looks like it is, she could be in serious trouble." I asked him what my options were. He gave me two: go to the police, or let the firm initiate internal fraud proceedings. But he warned me, either way, it wouldn't be quiet. She was a known client, a donor to several local campaigns. If this blew up, it'd get messy. And still, even with all that in front of me, part of me hesitated. She was my mom's sister, my only living relative, the woman who raised me, even if it was all a lie. But then I remembered that look on her face when she said, "Life isn't fair, and neither was her will." Like she was proud of what she'd done. Like she'd stolen it and gotten away clean. I told him to go ahead. Full review. Turn over everything. I said, "I want her exposed." He nodded and said, "You might want to get a lawyer too. This could drag out." He wasn't wrong. A week later, Rachel showed up at the building where I worked. I saw her standing in the lobby through the glass. She didn't know I was watching her from the janitor's closet. She looked furious, like someone who'd just lost control of something she thought she'd always own. She left before I finished my shift. The next day, I got served with papers. She was suing me, claiming defamation and breach of fiduciary trust. She was trying to destroy me before I could finish what I'd started. Getting served was like getting punched in the stomach. It was a thick envelope, delivered right to the front desk of the cleaning company I worked for. My supervisor handed it to me like it was just some delivery, and I stood there staring at the words: defamation, breach of fiduciary trust, intentional interference with financial contracts. I didn't even know what half of it meant, but I knew what she was doing. Rachel wasn't just trying to shut me up. She was trying to bury me. If I didn't respond, I'd lose by default. If I tried to fight it and couldn't afford legal help, I'd still lose. And if I lost, not only would she keep the money, she could try to force me to pay her for damages. It was classic her. Come at her quietly. She comes back loud. She was counting on me being broke, scared, and too humiliated to fight back. She didn't count on what I'd already done. I went back to Matthew Burke, the advisor. Showed him the lawsuit. He looked genuinely disgusted. Told me his firm had already launched a full compliance investigation. Said they had found at least 3 signatures he was almost certain had been forged, including one notarized authorization that gave her full control of the fund 2 weeks after my mom died. They were documenting everything. I also went to legal aid in Tulsa. I waited 6 hours in that cramped office, just hoping someone would talk to me. When I finally met with a junior attorney, I dumped everything. Documents, letters, her lawsuit, my mom's will, even a printout of an old birthday card where my mom wrote, "This is why I save for you no matter what." The attorney, her name was Clara, looked at everything and said, "We'll represent you.
Pro bono."
Those words hit me hard. I wasn't alone anymore. Rachel had money. She had lawyers. She had community reputation. But I had something she didn't: the truth. When the compliance report came back from the financial firm, it was worse than I thought. She hadn't just moved my college fund. She'd used parts of it as collateral for private investments, real estate, stocks, even campaign donations. That's why she changed the beneficiary. She couldn't make those moves if the account still listed me. Burke's firm suspended her account pending legal review. They also reported the findings to the SEC and local authorities. But Rachel didn't back down. She doubled down. Sent out letters to people we knew growing up, church friends, old neighbors, painting me as mentally unstable and vindictive, saying I'd been manipulated by bad actors trying to profit off a family tragedy. And people believed her. Some of them. I got nasty messages on Facebook. Old friends unfriended me. One of my mom's church friends even told me I should be ashamed for attacking my own blood. Rachel was good at this. Manipulation was her art form. But then something changed. Someone else came forward. It was a man named Steven, my mom's old coworker. He emailed me out of the blue. Said he remembered how much my mom used to talk about my college fund. Said he always thought Rachel was too interested in the money after the funeral. Then he said, I don't know if this helps, but I kept copies of some documents she asked the office to fax after your mom died. I didn't like how it felt. I kept them. What he sent made my stomach turn. A fax cover sheet, handwritten, with my mom's name forged at the top, authorizing urgent financial revisions to be handled by Rachel. Dated 5 days after my mom's funeral. She'd been dead a week when that paper was faxed. And in the corner, a scribbled note from the receptionist. Faxed to Rachel's home number. She said it was for probate stuff. Stephen had been holding on to that for over 2 years. He said, I always wondered if I should have done something sooner. I'm sorry. That document became the turning point. My lawyer called me the day after she saw it. Said, we're not just defending anymore. We're going on offense. The moment Clara said we were going on offense, everything shifted. Up until that point, I'd been reacting, scrambling to keep up with Rachel's lies, her lawsuit, her smear campaign. But now, for the first time, we had something she couldn't spin. Evidence with a date, a forged name, and a witness. Clara filed a countersuit for fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation of a minor. She also requested an emergency motion to freeze Rachel's assets until the case could be reviewed. Rachel didn't respond through her lawyers right away. She came herself. She showed up outside my job again, this time catching me just as I was clocking out. She stood in the parking lot like she was waiting to pick me up from school. Her arms were crossed, but her face was calm. Why are you doing this? She asked, as if I were the one who stole from her. You stole my future, I said, loud enough for a few coworkers to hear. She smiled, actually smiled. You think they're going to believe some janitor with a chip on his shoulder? You think they're going to give you a dime? I didn't answer. I walked right past her. But I could feel it, her control slipping. She was nervous. A week later, the court granted the motion to freeze her assets. That's when it really hit her. Suddenly, Rachel was calling every day. I blocked her number. Then she tried emailing. Apologies. Excuses. Half admissions like, I never meant for things to go this far, or I only did what I thought was right for the family. But there was one email that chilled me. You don't know everything. Your mom and I had an agreement. She didn't tell you everything about that fund. It messed with my head. I sat with that line for days. Was it possible? I asked Clara if we could pull my mom's final will and any recorded conversations or notes from her lawyer, if they existed. 2 weeks later, Clara called. I don't know if this is a twist or a gift, she said. But we found something. Turns out, 6 months before she died, my mom had gone to a separate lawyer, a different one from the estate attorney Rachel worked with. She'd updated her will again, but never got around to filing it formally because she got too sick. The document was unofficial but detailed. It stated clearly, Rachel is not to be given control over James' college fund under any circumstances. If I'm gone, he's to be given access at 18 without interference. I do not trust her. It was dated.
Signed.
Not notarized, but enough to support the case for intent. And the name of the lawyer who wrote it? Still practicing. We got a sworn statement. That buried Rachel's "we had an agreement" line. That same week, we found something else. Through subpoenaed records from the financial firm, Rachel hadn't just been using my fund. She'd borrowed against it to co-sign a private loan, one used to buy a rental property in Broken Arrow under a shell LLC. But when the property went into foreclosure, the financial hole had to be patched, quick. That's when she filed the forged paperwork changing the beneficiary. She didn't just steal it. She covered up a failed investment using the only money she could legally manipulate. And when I say failed, I mean it. She'd used my money to bail out her boyfriend's bad real estate flip. He'd since left her, filed bankruptcy, and disappeared. She was left holding the bag and covering it with my name. So now we weren't just talking fraud. We were talking embezzlement, wire fraud, and possibly criminal conspiracy if the DA got involved. But she still had one last move. She requested a private mediation to settle the matter quietly. Clara looked at me across the table and asked, "Do you want to hear what she has to offer?" I nodded. We showed up to the mediation office 2 weeks later. Rachel was already there, dressed like she was heading to a funeral again, head down, hands folded, like some repentant widow. She offered me $40,000 to drop everything. That was less than half of what the account should have held, before it had grown, before inflation, before all the damage she caused. Clara asked, "Is that your final offer?" Rachel looked right at me. "You're never going to win this in court. I know people. I've done things for this city. Do you really want to spend the next 2 years dragging this out?" I said nothing for a full minute. Then I leaned forward and said, "I'm not dragging anything. You are. And I'll drag you through every courtroom in Oklahoma if I have to." Rachel's face went pale. She didn't expect me to say that. She still thought I was that kid she could push around. She didn't understand. Every time she tried to silence me, she made me stronger. We walked out. No settlement. And the court date was set. The trial began almost a year after I first found that folder. By then, everything had changed. I wasn't living on my friend's couch anymore. Legal aid helped me find temporary housing. I was working 2 jobs, still cleaning at night, but also helping part-time at Clara's office doing filing and data entry. Not glamorous, but it paid. I had grown up.
And Rachel?
She was unraveling. In court, she showed up with a new lawyer, 3rd one since this started. Her face was thinner, her clothes more modest, and she stopped smiling. She wouldn't even look at me. Maybe because she knew I was done being afraid of her. The courtroom wasn't big. Maybe a dozen people sitting in the gallery. But it felt full. People from church, old neighbors, even Stephen from my mom's old office came. No one clapped. No one talked. But they watched. And she knew they were watching. The prosecution presented everything. The forged documents, the handwritten will, the fake facts, the unauthorized fund transfers, and the shady property loan. Her whole operation, laid out on projector screens. Every signature she faked. Every dollar she misused. Every lie she told under oath. Clara was surgical.
Calm.
Unflinching. Rachel's defense tried to blame it all on confusion after my mom's death. They said it was a family misunderstanding and painted me as an angry, misguided young man manipulated by outside interests. But then Burke took the stand, the financial advisor. He was blunt. "There is no financial misunderstanding here. These were deliberate actions. The paper trail is clear." And when Clara showed the jury the signed note from my mom's updated will, the one with "I do not trust her" underlined, it hit hard. Even the judge looked shaken. Rachel finally took the stand. She broke down.
Cried. Said she did what she thought was best.
That I would have wasted the money. That I was headed nowhere and would have flunked out like my father. That was her mistake, bringing up my dad. He left when I was 10. That had nothing to do with this. I stood and asked the judge for permission to speak directly. It was risky. Clara advised against it, but the judge allowed it. I said, "She didn't just take money. She took my chance to leave Tulsa. She took my mother's dying wishes and shredded them. She lied to me, lied to my friends, lied to the world. And when I tried to get justice, she tried to destroy me again. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this because if I don't, she'll do it to someone else. And my mom would never forgive me if I stayed silent." The courtroom was dead quiet. The jury didn't take long. They found her guilty: civil fraud, breach of fiduciary trust, and financial exploitation of a minor. The judge awarded me full restitution, $112,489 plus damages, for a total judgment just under $190,000.
But that wasn't the end.
The judge also referred her to the district attorney for potential criminal prosecution. She was arrested 3 weeks later, charged with felony fraud, forgery, and financial abuse. She posted bail, but the mugshot made the rounds. Her face was on the front page of the Tulsa World. Her donors dropped her. Her social circles turned on her. Her rental property?
Foreclosed.
Her investment accounts?
Seized.
She lost everything she built using other people's money. And me? I used the judgment to pay off legal costs and enrolled in community college. I'm studying finance now, so no one can ever screw me over like that again. Rachel's trial is set for next year. She's looking at real time, possibly 5 years. And every time I pass the courthouse, I stop. Not out of spite, just to remind myself. Justice doesn't always come fast, but when it does, it leaves a mark that liars like her can't hide from. She thought she buried me, but all she did was plant me deeper into the truth. And this time, I get to live the life she tried to steal.